Hey, hey, urban politics, you know what it is. I'm your humble host, Phys Ed Music, and this is another rousing episode of Urban Politics. Right now, at this moment, I want to jump right into it like a car and drive, and we're going to talk about the kids, and we're going to talk about the kids' curriculum in schools. I guess there has been an outcry from the youth for a lot of different things that they want to see in their curriculum, want to see in the midst of things taught in schools. Let's talk about that. They said that they want to change in curriculum. They want more diversity in their textbooks. Demand anti-racist text in U.S. high schools, and they want it now, they said. In the Carolinas, social studies educators want them to want the term systemic racism added to the state curriculum. It should. It's a thing. I've talked about it on this show ad nauseum. What are we hiding from? We need to talk about it. We need to deal with it. We can't deal with it unless we talk about it. We can't act like it's not a thing. It's a huge thing. It has shaped pretty much everything around here. So yeah, there's that. So they're talking about adding it, to the verbiage of the curriculum. That's appropriate. Kids need to learn about discrimination and racism. Kids are reporting that they are learning more about Black history from TikTok than they are from school. I believe it. Now, I mean, I am about to be 40 years old next month, so I'm no spring chicken. But I've definitely learned more in the last couple of years about some stuff in history that I never knew, and I know more than most because I've took the time to study it and learn about it. There's still things that I've learned about recently that just weren't talked about or weren't dealt with. TikTok, there's an education to be had there. Now, TikTok's like everything else on the internet. Once you hear that stuff, then you got to do your own research. But I'm not going to lie. A lot of things, most things I've heard on TikTok, I do the research and the stuff is true, and I'm blown away. Why have I never heard about this? So, yeah, and that's what's going on there. So that's why I also think, too, a lot of this stuff that's coming from the right is going to falter. What do I mean by that? A lot of these voting laws, there's like, 260 some laws that they done went around the country trying to get together and all of that. I think that's going to fall because the internet is a real thing and people are galvanized these days. So any little tricks that they do to try and stop people from the vote, people are going to make sure that they overcome those hurdles and they find ways around it. And these days, we got this handy dandy intranet that will help you do just that. And that's what people are doing now. So people are on one, to quote Drake, and they won't be held back from voting. They see the importance of it. They see that people's vote. And I think the Black community, that's the biggest fear I think the Republican Party has had for a long time. The Black community getting hip to the fact that their votes do matter and can matter if it's in bulk. One vote, not so life-changing. 300,000 votes, now we're talking turkey, as they would say. You see what I'm saying? So, and that's what's happened. A lot of marginalized communities have gotten hit to that. The LGBT community, the Black community, the Spanish community have now gotten hit to the fact that voting is big. And if you can get a bunch of people voting for something, then that's something that a politician can't turn a blind eye to. A party can't turn a blind eye to. So that is what it is. So that's a good thing that's happening right now. TikTok brought a lot of that on, and I can see why Trump specifically hated TikTok. Go on there and see what some people are saying about him, good and bad. There are some people on there who are Trump supporters. Trump love. You ain't never seen Trump love like you can see it from some of these TikTok people, but you ain't never seen some of the Trump hate like you see it from these TikTok people too. And then some of the other stuff that's on TikTok too. There's a good education on there. There are some Black history facts that are talked about on TikTok that are truly appalling. Like I said, when I looked them up, it was all true. I said, wow, why have I never heard about this? So there's that. So the internet, it's a good thing sometimes. Moving on. Some on the right are calling it indoctrination or an anti-white curriculum. That's why they're afraid of this. Tim Scott, you might know him. I'm not even going to say what I think about that brother right now. But he's a Republican, and he says he claims it teaches kids to judge people solely based on their color and not their character. Interesting. I'd say, Mr. Scott, that's exactly what's going on right now in America. So... what? He act like that ain't what's going on now. It teaches kids to judge people solely based on their color and not on their character. That is kind of what's that's the hiccup in the country right now. There's a lot of that going on. To get out from under that would be maybe to teach about race, to teach about racism, to teach about systemic racism and how it's wrong and how it has been used to keep a whole group of people back from just bare necessities and the joys that life could offer. There's that. Anyway, moving on. Look, you've heard this term thrown around a lot right now. Critical race theory. People have been going on and on about it. Trump came out, it's a bad thing. We don't want to talk. We don't want no critical race theory. I've seen things on, and I know you've seen the same clip on Instagram where there's a white lady at a mic and like she had a parent-teacher meeting and she said, just because I don't want critical race theory taught to my children doesn't make me a racist. And then on TikTok, they cut away to the sister. She's like, yes, it does. And then she breaks it down, right? So guess what? We're going to do that right here, right now on Urban Politics. I ain't do nothing that you and yours can't do. Just let your little fingers do the walking and check out Google. As Jay-Z said, Google is your friend, bruh. So I went over to Google and check this out. Critical race theory, this is all it is. Bust this. Critical race theory, or CRT, is an academic movement of civil rights scholars and activists in the United States who seek to critically examine the laws as it intersects with issues of race and to challenge mainstream liberal approaches to racial justice. Right? That's it. What is wrong there? How can you have a problem with any of that? I said, how can anybody have a problem with that? Come on now. Critical race theory is an academic movement of civil rights scholars and activists. That makes sense. Scholars and activists got together and said, hey, in the United States, we're seeking to critically examine the law as it intersects with issues of race and to challenge mainstream liberal approaches to racial injustice. That's just smart. That's just good stuff. That's what we should be doing here. If you have an intelligent, thoughtful society, it should always be questioning the ways that it deals with all types of things. Race, religion, how those things intersect when it comes under the law, the separation of church and state. All of that stuff should always be up for debate and always talked about, always discussed in our schools and our other higher institutions of learning. That just makes sense. So when you hear people out there poo-pooing or coming against critical race theory, it ain't nothing to be afraid of. All it seems like to me is what it is just thinking thoughtfully about this thing, race. Thinking thoughtfully about white supremacy and how it has affected white, black, and other nationalities of people. Thinking thoughtfully about how all of this affects our criminal justice system. See what I'm saying? So, yeah, I would say to anybody running around there saying a critical race theory, we don't need that. Have you looked it up? Do you even know what critical race theory is? Because if you did, you probably wouldn't be that much against it. Because guess what? To me, it just sounds like some good discussions had about some stuff that's needed to happen forever in this country. We're a day late and $1 short on a lot of this stuff. But oh well, better late than never. But come on. People all up in arms over this. This is old stuff. It should be old anyway. These are old thoughts that finally we got a president who cares enough to be, you know what I'm saying, making good on some of this stuff. Finally, people watched a human being get murdered on camera and now they care enough to be like, yeah, let's enact a little social change. Let's start moving on some of these things we've been talking about for a millennia. Nothing to be afraid of. Critical race theory, black, white, don't be afraid of that. Embrace it. It needs to happen. Moving on. Joseph Biden, he is doing some popular things that's popular with people. Ergo, he's a popular president. Let's talk about it. New cases of COVID are at their lowest point since the beginning of October. That's huge. The stimulus package has helped GDP 6.4%. The second best quarterly reading since 2003. People have more money to spend on average. The number a household or the money that a household has after taxes went up by 67%. The first quarter of 2021. Joe Biden also, or Joe Biden's at his first 100 days in, 64% of Americans have said that they're optimistic about the future, and 39% of Americans have said that they're pessimistic. So think about that. 64% of people say that they're optimistic or agree that Joe Biden's doing a good job. You can't get 64% of Americans to agree on anything. You can't get 50% of Americans to agree that water is wet or that the sky is blue. So the fact that you got 64% of people who are saying, hey, I feel optimistic about the future, that's huge. He's above water. That's what they say on the news. You know what I'm saying? He's above water in that poll. He is. And those are some pretty good numbers. 64%, that's something to be proud of. He should pat himself on the back. I'm sure he is. Anyway, moving on. He set a new goal for himself. That's another thing, too. I like this guy. Unlike Trump, who would set goals and never reach them, this dude sets goals, reaches them, and then quickly sets the next goal. So his next goal now is 70% of Americans vaccinated by July 4th. And they said he's already poised to get there. If numbers keep going the way they're supposed to go, he'll get there. That's huge right there. That right there, to quote his predecessor, was promises made, promises kept. But Joe Biden actually made some promises and kept some promises. So that's what's up. Moving on. There are 8 million less jobs than before the pandemic. That's something to think about. 8 million less jobs. There are 8 million jobs that were here before the pandemic. They're no longer here. They're gone. 8 million. Keep that in your head. Republicans claim the extra unemployment is keeping people from going back to work. Not true. There are no numbers to support this thinking. And that's only, there it is. So some people might sit there and say, oh, you just want to pump up left talking points. No, there's no proof of this. And I've heard this from a lot of Republicans and a lot of other people who sit on the right talking about, oh, yeah, that's why people don't want to go back to work. They have all this extra unemployment insurance and all these stimulus and all this stuff. Why would anybody want to work? They said, no, there are no numbers to even support that. They said people report that people report that a fear of catching the virus and stagnant wages still reasons for not returning to work. So think about that. You know, you already had a job that really wasn't paying the bills anyway. Now you're here probably on unemployment. You're probably making more money from unemployment than you ever made at this garbage job. You're going to go ahead and ride out this unemployment till it ends, and then you'll go back to that garbage job because you know it's not going anywhere because it's garbage. But it's all you've been able to get, and it pays the bills somewhat. So that's what's going on now. Stagnant wages. That's a lot of a big thing that's keeping people away. People still waiting to make $15 an hour. And at $15 an hour, you're not living high on the hog. You're just able to live. There's people out here working, they can't even live. What is that? $10, $11, $12, $13 an hour. You can't do it on that. And I ain't saying what I think. I'm saying what I know. Been there, done that. You know? Been there, tried that. You know? So, yeah. So you got a lot of that going on. So the right needs to wake up to that. There's a lot of people not going back to work because their job wasn't that great. They didn't have benefits. The one lady said that. She was like, yeah, I want to go back to work. But then one, I'm going to risk getting, the virus. I got kids of my own who I got to worry about. Two, I'm going to go out here and a lot of these places are only hiring for part-time. So make sure that you don't get any benefits, or they're not giving out a lot of hours, no full-time or whatever. They're not paying a livable wage anyway. Come on, man. That's a joke. That's a joke. And it blows me away. Congress would ask you to live. They would never try to live that way. You know, Mitch McConnell would never try to live off of $15 an hour. Never. Kevin McCarthy, he would never try to live off $15 an hour. But he'll ask you to do it. Right? Anyway, moving on. They said there are 8 to 9 million people who would be working right now if it was not for the coronavirus. That makes sense. The recovery, especially hard for women. Why? Because of child care issues. And they say they also want to get schools reopened for this fact too. That's something to think about. This pandemic has been hard on everybody, but it's been especially hard on the ladies and the mothers out there. Think about it. If you're a single mother, your back's really against the wall. You know, they haven't opened the school, so your kids aren't going to school, so you got to be the child care. You need some kind of child care, but you still need to go to a job and make money to pay the bills up in here. What do you do? I don't know what these ladies are doing, but God bless them. Somehow they're doing it. They're doing it, but that's what they've always had to do. To quote Jesse Jackson, he always said that. He said, single mothers have always been the great managers because they've always had to do the most with the least. And boy, is that true right now. So my heart goes off to them. My hat goes off to them. And I say, ladies, I don't know how you're doing it, but somehow they're doing it, but they need some help. And Joe Biden realizes that. That's why he had the stimulus package and all that. Because them folk, my single mothers, they need the help more than all of us, okay? So that's what's up. In September, unemployment runs out and the schools will reopen. So a lot of people are saying that, oh, the economy sucks right now. And they had a jobs report and it was horrible. I think it was 266,000 jobs created for this month. Last month, it was like 900 and some thousand. So that's way lower than what they were hoping. They claimed it was going to be 1 million. They forecasted 1 million and only got 266,000, like a little over 250,000. That's not a good look. But oh well, we're in the midst of a pandemic. It is what it is, but that needs to get better. But some of this stuff that I talked about earlier is a reason for that. So, they're working through that. But they're hoping in September that'll turn around. Why? Schools are going to reopen in. They're going to reopen it at full force. Everybody's going to be up in the school, probably with masks on. I hope with masks on so that everybody's staying safe. And then they said that unemployment will run out. A lot of people getting that extra unemployment insurance or just getting unemployment period, that is going to run out in September. So in September, you're going to have a whole lot of broke folk who are able to have their kids go back to school and they'll be able to go back to a job. That probably will pull the economy up. It is what it is. But we really have to see what things are looking like then. We're not there yet. Hopefully, we're at that point there, but we don't know yet. So there's that. Watch this space. To steal Rachel Maddow's terminology. Watch this space. Anyway, moving on. The Justice Department brings federal criminal charges against Derek Chauvin and the 3 other officers for violating George Floyd's rights and using excessive force to restrain him. I think that's extremely appropriate. And a lot of people was tripping because they said the federal government doesn't always get involved. They do sometimes. I think they were saying the Rodney King case that the federal government got involved in that, and other cases where it seems like somebody's civil rights specifically have been encroached upon. The government will get involved. So there's that. Thomas Lane, J. Alexander Quigg, I'm going to mess these names up. Oh, I apologize. And Tao Theo are the 3 cops who are also charged. That was, Derek Chauvin's buddies who were helping him out that day. Quigg, K-U-E-N-G, King, and Theo are accused of failing to stop Chauvin. So those are 2 of the cops. They're coming up with specific, or they're getting specific charges for not stepping in and stopping their, partner in crime, so to speak, from, perpetrating this crime against Mr. Floyd. That's what they should have did. They didn't do that. All 3 face charges of failing to provide medical care with deliberate indifference. Listen to that. Deliberate indifference to Floyd's suffering. They are reporting, they're preparing for a trial in August. I want you to feel that term right there. They said with where is it at here? Let me find it, because they said with deliberate indifference. Deliberate indifference. I think that perfectly sums up what it seems like they kind of had out there. And I hate to say that. And I know there's a lot of people who wouldn't agree with that. There's no way that those cops thought so little of him and his life that they did what they did on purpose or without a care. There were other things going on. No. That's what it was. It was deliberate indifference. It wasn't accidental indifference. It was deliberate indifference. They meant to be indifferent to Mr. Floyd's life. They meant that. That wasn't no accident. That was all purposeful. It was by grand design. So that's perfect right there. It's perfect that they're getting that charge, and that's worded perfectly for those men's, I'll say that loosely, those guys' actions that day. It's perfect for that. So that is what it is. Like I said, they're going to trial in August on that. Those 3 dudes. We'll see what happens with them. Derek Chauvin also faces a separate federal indictment. A lot of people don't even know about this. Related to a 2017 incident where he allegedly used a neck restraint without legal justification. That's in quotes. I'll read that again. Without legal justification on a 14-year-old. And beat the teenager in the head with a flashlight. Really? So all that happened before George Floyd. You didn't hear about any of that at the trial, huh? Me neither. Now, I knew about this because I read about it somewhere else, I think. But I think what it is that the defense for Derek Chauvin was able to keep this out, this tidbit. And this is huge right here. You know what I'm saying? Derek Chauvin, he already was beating up a 14-year-old and used the neck restraint on him that wasn't legal. But y'all ain't going to admit that in the evidence when right now he's on trial for putting his knee on the neck of another brother of another black man. This one was just over age. Anyway, moving on. To succeed, the prosecutors must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Chauvin acted willfully to deprive Floyd of his civil rights and used force that was unconstitutionally unreasonable. Easy stuff. Easy stuff. I saw the video. You saw the video. All of this is on the video. Case made. Open and shut. Only here in America can you see something with your own two eyes, but we're still like, can't jump to any conclusions. We have to do we have to do an investigation. We need all the facts to come in. The facts came in for that 8 minutes and 46 seconds while you watched the snuff film. You've seen the facts. We all saw the facts. So there's that, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. That's open and shut case, right? That's a slam dunk, ain't it? Come on now. So currently, the Minneapolis Police Department is involved in a Justice Department investigation about misconduct. So already they're involved. That whole police outfit in Minnesota is involved, you know what I'm saying, in an investigation from the Justice Department. They've been accused of being engaged in a pattern or practice of discrimination. So this ain't the first time. This is just the first time it was televised, basically. What did Will Smith say? You know what I'm saying? Police violence against black people ain't just started happening. It's just starting to be televised. It's just starting to be put on a camera, on a camera phone for the world to see. There it is. Congress is currently working on a nonpartisan bill named after George Floyd that would keep a registry of police misconduct, among other things. So that's great. We need that. A lot of people were saying that too. There's no way to check these things. We don't know how many minorities police have shot. We don't know how many people police shot but didn't die. We don't know how many police people got shot but only got wounded by the police. We don't know how many people they shot in the torso or maybe just shot in the arm or leg. All of that stuff should be on a database somewhere. So now they said they're going to do that and they're going to name it after George Floyd. They have a database somewhere of all this information. You know what I'm saying? And that needs to, this is oversight that should have been taking place with our law enforcement. It's a shame that events have had to take place for these things to come to fruition, but finally something's being done. So there's that. Last point on this right here, Michael Moore. If you don't know who he is, he's a great guy, great liberal mind, has done movies like, Fahrenheit 9/11 and Sicko, and I've seen a lot of his movies, not all of them. There's a few movies I need to go and see, man. This guy's really great. But he had brought up how, basically he gave Darnella Frazier a virtual Oscar for her 8 minute and 46 second film of the murder of George Floyd. You know, so there it is. He was saying in this Oscar time, we're having the Oscars and they giving all these tributes to all these movies. He said, but the most important film that any of us saw was the George Floyd murder. And that was because of this young lady who had the heart and the soul to do it, Darnella Frazier. I don't know if I could have did it. I don't know if I could have held a camera for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and recorded this brother's murder. But she did it, and thank God that she did it. Think about the changes that have come about just because of that video. So when they run around giving all those Oscars and all those awards, he gave her a virtual Oscar. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And where the black community at on this? Somebody rich with some money, some black person who's rich with some money, get this young lady an Oscar or a scholarship or something, because what she did was huge. It was monumental, okay? Joe Biden, when he's out here talking to people, he always reminds them of what George Floyd's daughter said to him. She said, my daddy changed the world. And then, you know what I'm saying, Joe Biden says yes. And it's up to my administration to make sure that this isn't just a fleeting moment. You know, that we can make this change lasting. It's up to us to make it lasting. Real. And I hear that. So that's real. You know what I'm saying? But she was a part of that. Had she not took that video, there would not have been that documentation to change the world. So she deserves a medal. She deserves a scholarship. She deserves something. I'm giving her flowers right now. Give them up, give them up, give them up. Because if it wasn't for her, I would have never seen that. You would have never seen that. The world would not have been set on fire from something that happens commonplace, as we know as black folk, but she was smart enough and had the awareness of thought in the moment to pull out that phone and get on it. Because she's a young black person. They love to pull out them camera phones, don't they? Thank God for that. So there's that. So like I said, give her flowers, man. Somebody do something big for her. But Michael Moore brought her up and said that she deserves an Oscar among all that other crap that they gave Oscars at the Oscar. Anyway, moving on. I want to talk about Facebook. Oh, look, and I'm running out of time. Let me get real quick. Facebook turning on Trump. Good. They still said that they ain't got no love for Trump. They're not giving him a page anymore. Good. He don't deserve it. He don't need it. His new social media was basically a blog. That's what it is. It's a blog. So it's silly. You know what I'm saying? I guess people can leave him messages and he can respond to them and blah, 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 blah. It ain't nothing like Facebook. I guess he thought maybe he'd be able to do that quickly. I would say there's a whole bunch of people who work at Facebook for a reason. That thing ain't easy to do. You can probably talk to Mr. Zuckerberg about that. He'll let you know that Facebook, that ain't no easy feat to pull off. With all these people, with all these friends, talking about all this crap, 24/7, hours, days, weeks, years. That's got to be hard to maintain. So whatever. I guess so if Trump is going to get into that game, he's going to have to get a whole lot more people and a whole lot more money and do a whole lot more research. Anyway, moving on. There is Frank Talk. That was the site that was set up by the MyPillow guy, but he's an idiot. So that site sucked. It was an abysmal failure. He had it up for a second. It didn't do good. It kept crashing. Come on, what do you expect? These are old guys trying to make a social site. That's stupid. That on paper, that don't make no sense. Go get some young talent, you idiots. You got money. Pay some young folk who know what they're doing to do it for you. Anyway, call yourselves job creators. Anyway, moving on. Parler, that's another site for the right. And I heard that I think they shut Parler down. I think that's shut down. If I'm wrong, once again, you in the pushback zone, pushback. But I think Parler has been shut down because they off the hook. 4chan, I think that's still a site. There are some others. I was going to do a whole little segment on a lot of these social sites on the right. But I ended up not doing it, and there were other things that came up that were more important. But there's a lot of those, and if you're interested in that, I would start with, Parler, like I said, I think that's going to start with 4chan, if that's, what tickles your fancy. Anyway, moving on, is a law that makes it illegal to give people in line to vote a bottle of water really racist. Really? Yes, it is. Here's why. The average wait time in Georgia after 7 p.m. was 8 times longer than polling places that were 90% non-white versus 90% white. Some polling places had 8-hour lines, overwhelmingly at black precincts. Now it's against the law to give people in those long lines water. Is that racist? Yes, it is. Of course it is. Come on. And that's what's up. So next time somebody asks you something like that, I mean, really, could a law that just takes away people's right to get water from someone in line, to give somebody in line water, is that really racist? Yeah, it is. Especially when they're looking to do it in a place where 8 times out of 10, you're going to be a black person waiting in a long line and you can't even get a drink of water now, waiting to vote. They're doing that to deter black and brown people from voting. Ergo, it's racist. That's what's up. So you really don't need anybody to spell that out for you, but I've seen some memes and other things like that where it has been spelled out for you, and that's what's sad. Everybody sees it. Ain't nobody, that nobody is delusional about what's going on in Georgia and some of these other places. Like I said, there's 260 some voting laws on the books. We have 50 states, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe 51 if they get their act together about DC. But right now, currently, we got 50 states and they got 260 laws calling themselves tightening up the vote. Nah, they making it hard for black and brown women and young and elderly to vote. And that's what they're doing with a lot of these lame laws. So I don't want to hear that you're doing it in the name of strengthening the vote. No, you're not. You're doing it in the name of disenfranchising the vote. Anyway, moving on, I want to talk about my IPA of the week. Sorry for the can. I almost threw it away. But this right here is a double high-pitch IPA. It's a delicious IPA. I like it. Let me read here what they say about it. If I can see it, it says, this extra large version of our flagship high-pitch IPA gets seriously hopped with classic West Coast hops, resulting in some eye-popping, dank, and citrusy aromas. Expect distinctive melon and grapefruit flavors to balance out the malts in this dangerously drinkable double IPA. Double IPA, and what does that mean? That means double the alcohol, y'all. So I definitely like it. I'm looking for the content here. 9% alcohol by volume. Most beers are 5%. That one there is 9%. I'm looking right now. My time is drawing nigh. We are at 30 minutes. I don't want to take up no more of your time. I'm your humble host, Phys Ed Music. This has been Urban Politics. If you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Tell a friend that we over here getting it in. Once again, all my love to all the mothers out there, especially my mother, Darlene Edwards. Thank you for everything. I owe everything to you. I love you to pieces. Anyway, I'm out of here. As always, see you around like a donut.